You've been paying close attention. You understand the gravity of the situation, and again, everyone in this courtroom thanks you for the responsibilities that you've shown in this case. This case is moving forward now to you. This case is to the point where, as we've indicated, we will argue what we believe the evidence has shown. It was mentioned in the opening statement of the defense that we were the government. I'm not sure what that really means. We are the state of Wisconsin. We represent the state of Wisconsin. We represent this community. We represent you. As we present this evidence, we indicate to you what we believe the evidence has shown, but ultimately it's going to be your decision what you remember, what you think was stated as far as testimony, and how you believe that all comes together. We have the burden of proof in this case, and we embrace that burden, and we've met that burden in this case. It's been mentioned to you the elements of the crime in this matter. They're pretty simple. The defendant caused the death of Nicole Vanderheiden, and the defendant acted with the intent to kill. As we indicated, as we expected, this case isn't one in where we're all going to be arguing about intent. That's not going to be an issue. That wasn't an issue with respect to the testimony presented. That doesn't seem to be a question that you need to make a determination on. It's very clear by the vicious actions that took place by the actor involved in her death, intent to kill is self-evident. This is clearly a whodunit case. We told you at the start of this case that the evidence would form a path, and that path would lead you to the truth and lead you to finding justice for Nicole. You need only follow that path, and we ask you to apply your intelligence, your common sense, and your reason, and when you do so, you'll find the defendant's guilty. This is basically a simple case. Who has been proven to have been with Nikki in the last hours of her life on May 21st, 2016, in those early morning hours? Who has been proven unequivocally to have been with her in her last moments? What does the independent scientific and technical evidence tell us on that point? What does it show? Whose DNA is on her sock? The sock he left behind on her battered body. The crime lab leads us to the defendant with that hit. He's with her in her last moments. What other evidence do we have as to who is with her? The key questions in this case. The Google dashboard. Who's with Nikki at the 4 key areas of Brown County? She's last seen by Aaron Kalinsky at the sardine can. We know the defendant's really close by before that at Richard Cranium's, a very short walk. Then where does he end up? Defendant's phone continues to track him, continues to place him, it continues to implicate him. It puts him on the murder scene on Berkeley. Then, third spot, it places the defendant at the spot, the field on Hoffman, where he dumps her body. Following that, his phone tracks him to where he disposes of her clothing and her personal belongings. Keep in mind, he destroyed her face. You couldn't even identify her. And then he takes all her property with her IDs and so forth and makes sure that's not even near her body. Gets it out of the area to further slow down identification and investigation into this homicide. With this location evidence, with him at the area of the sardine can, Berkeley Street, the field on Hoffman, and 172 where her clothing and personal property is, and the DNA hit, ladies and gentlemen, we could have arrested at that point. That's all the evidence you needed to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. But we had more, and you got to hear about it. The evidence went far beyond the phone and its location and the hit on the sock. We have the presence of the defendant's DNA where it should not be. You heard about the numerous swabs that were done on her poor person. Dr. Regalska, Sergeant Lopnow took good evidence, and then you found out where were the significant points. Where did the defendant show up? He showed up all over this woman. Cervical swabs, vaginal swabs, and then all the other markers that you see. Places that he handled her, places that he dragged her. places that assault. And all while he's finished with the disposal, what's he do following that? The forensic search shows him obsessively searching for news accounts with respect to what's going on in this investigation. What are they finding out about me? Am I going to get away with it? Checking it routinely, regularly, and not looking for anything else. How many accounts did you hear of on that forensic search of his phone? He's worried about being discovered. You learned about that, and that's further proof of his involvement in committing this crime. And all this evidence is undisputed. In the opening, the defense told you it was his phone. He was at those locations. It is his DNA. This isn't even something we need to argue about because it's uncontradicted. The defense told you, they agreed with the state's evidence, most of the state's evidence. They told you it would come down to argument. Well, we say it comes down to logic and common sense, not argument. They cannot erase our evidence. Now the defendant has to try to come up with an explanation for all this evidence. Find a way to explain it to you. He needs an explanation for all the physical and scientific evidence that shows that he's a killer. Their explanation is ridiculous and it's insulting to your intelligence. They offer distractions, but worse, they offer testimony of the defendant. Such arrogance. He meets Nikki at Richard Cranium's. He's a stranger. He doesn't know her. What's he tell you? She's flirting with him. What's he say? You can tell when someone's into you. Clearly, this 6'7" hunk of man could not be resisted. You saw his picture. What was a girl to do? What were Nikki's choices? He told you she didn't seem to be with anyone. She was by herself. He saw her as prey, somebody to move in on. He had one thing in mind, and it was not giving her a ride home. Think about it. They both wanted consensual sex. They would have gone to his house, to his home, where he had a room, 2.5 blocks, he says, from Richard Cranium's, where he had privacy, where he was allowed to bring home women and did it on other occasions. Oh, but no, there was an elderly gentleman in the house at the time in the living room. That makes no sense. But no, they don't have sex there. They don't go to a hotel. No, it's on to Berkeley. And she obviously had to tell him how to get there. He didn't know where it was. She obviously gave him directions because she thought he was taking her home. To her child. To the father of her child. To her home. And that's also, when you get to Berkeley, how we know the defendant's lying when he testified. Because what did he tell you that Nikki said? He claimed Nicole told him there was a light on and the babysitter was there. Nicole would never have made that statement. There was no car in the driveway or in the street. Dallas's vehicle was not there. Nikki would have not said, oh, the babysitter's still there. Dallas testified she'd gone already. She left around 3 a.m., right before they got there. There was no vehicle to be seen. She's friends with Dallas. She knew her car. She would never have said, oh, the babysitter's here. There's a light on. She would have seen the car was gone, and she would probably assumed that Doug was home. He makes this statement up. He makes up this account. This whole thing is made up. And that statement there points out that Nikki didn't say that because none of this happened. He tries to make you believe this encounter was consensual as far as sexual activity. Killing her is not enough. He seeks to defame her. Her life's gone, so let's go after her reputation. She's not here to counter these outrageous claims. That's very convenient for him. Infidelity. What, revenge sex? He calls it wasn't gentle intercourse. So now we're supposed to believe this stay-home mom, this part-time substitute teacher, is into rough sex with a stranger. He has no shame. What really happened? Evaluate the proof. What happened, do we know, to this poor woman's person and her private areas? Contusions, abrasions, vaginal vault blood presence. And think about this. The doctor told you this wasn't just from stomping, this was internal injuries as well. Penetration took place. Consider the vaginal area. This woman was in a relationship with a man. She'd borne 3 children. The vaginal area is an area designed for penetration. People around the world have sexual intercourse, and we don't have abrasions and contusions and bleeding. This was forcible. This was painful. The doctor told you that. But the defendant can't admit that because it's his motive for the murder. You don't need a medical degree to draw the same conclusion Dr. Rogalska did, that this was suggestive of a sexual assault. The evidence and the injuries suggestive of a sexual assault. This was a forcible penetration. It would have been a painful penetration. It was a rape. But aside from all these horrible injuries, which are horrible, with respect to just that area of her person, practically speaking, ladies and gentlemen, I know you'll use your common sense. Why do we know that she did not choose to have sex with this defendant? It's because of the location. It's like real estate. It's all about the location. You're not going to have sex in front of your neighbor's house and near your own home, where your father of your child may be right around the corner. Great place for a romantic tryst. The back of the Blazer, where he says he barely fits. Well, wait, let's make it even better. Let's open the doors so the show gets even better for the neighborhood. It's an absurd account for something that's supposed to have been consensual, because it wasn't. The outlandish account continues when he talks about Hoffman. His escape from Hoffman, when the man has him at gunpoint, some 5 feet away, but he's able to lunge, push as hard as I could, and haul ass, as he says it, to his truck, which was 10 to 15 feet away. Bullets don't fly. They can't cross the distance faster than him running. Gets in there, no shots fired at the car, and he puts it in low gear, and still. Doug Dietrich lets him go, the witness to the murder. It's ridiculous. The defendant then chooses to dispose of all the evidence on 172 that can actually tell us what happened, that can give us clues, that needs to be in the hands of authorities. And then after this frightening near-death experience, drives home, goes to bed, doesn't call anyone, sends no aid to Nikki, who he doesn't even know is dead and is laying in a field. Doesn't call 911, goes to sleep, sleeps in, he's awakened by Ed the next day. Goes fishing. Because, well, after all, it was a pre-planned event. He doesn't tell Ed in the morning, on the trip down. Maybe on the boat there were other people around. They're spending the time together in the evening. He's driving back with them, and he doesn't tell Ed Jackson squat. The man who reminded him of his dad, who was his best friend. The father figure, Ed Jackson. The one person I could talk to, he says on direct. Isn't that ironic? Well, apparently he wasn't. And all the while, he's checking on the news stories, even before there's an arrest of Doug Dietrich. Checking out, wow, do they know yet? Am I going to get away with this? Even later on his phone, even when the police are begging someone to come forward, if you know anything about these circumstances, asking for help from our community, he says nothing. But he's got an explanation for that, ladies and gentlemen, because from where he comes from, you don't talk. You don't tell on people. I feared for my own safety I could end up dead. Well, let's think about that. You're the only one who knows who the true killer is. You could identify that true killer and take him off the streets. But no, you run the risk you'll just bump into him again in Green Bay, where you continue to visit for months and you don't reveal what you know. You could make yourself safe by making sure the police had the right man and you give them the evidence they need to convict. For months and months, he wasn't afraid because that wasn't what happened. He didn't do anything to ensure the killer was brought in because he was the killer. What do you say? I didn't know who I could talk to. What do you say? How about an anonymous phone call? Have someone else called in. There were many ways. Send a letter. I mean, we now know there's a lot of things you can check on phones. How about an anonymous letter to the authorities? But no, he didn't do any of that. But he says, well, now I should have told. He should have told the truth that he did it. He hadn't had this all made up yet. It's an outlandish story, and it's all made up. He brought up references to a movie when he testified. If someone submitted this script, it would be rejected, because it's wholly implausible. The court told you you have to make determinations on credibility, and that is a huge responsibility, and it's an important focus in this case, as in many trials. The state knows you'll consider all of those factors. You'll make and weigh them as you should and apply them to every single witness. But with respect to Doug Dietrich's testimony and the defendant's, you cannot reconcile it. You can't say, well, one person might be mistaken and maybe someone else misunderstood something. They're diametrically opposed. You're going to have to sit down and say which person's telling the truth. And when you do so, you'll look to all these matters. And what will you be looking at? And the state thinks one of the key factors will be, again, the reasonableness of the witness's testimony, the reasonableness of their account as to what took place. But you can also consider demeanor. Doug Dietrich took all the cross-examination questions. He answered them. He was up there a long time. Maybe didn't remember everything. What did the defendant do on cross? Got angry. I've already answered that. I'm not going to answer anymore. I think he revealed his true colors. But you saw it all, and you'll apply those factors, and the state's comfortable with that. As you consider as you consider the credibility, what do you know about these individuals? There's a man who left his children behind, 11 and 14, to escape supervision by his probation agent. And he told us on direct that I sat down with them and indicated my situation, and they were 100% behind me. But he didn't tell them. On cross, he admits, well, no, I didn't tell him that, so he wasn't even truthful with his own children. He absconded from probation. He left behind his wife, whom he wasn't divorced with yet, his mother, who he's not involved with, and his kids. He gets up here, and he starts seeing young Jordan Schuyler. She thinks they're serious. She thinks it's a close relationship. Apparently she's got that wrong. You heard from his friends. He's out talking up other women. From his own testimony, he went after Nikki. To determine credibility, the court has told you you can consider the fact that the defendant has been convicted not once, not twice, not 3 times, but he has 5 criminal convictions. And that's important for you to factor in as you decide whom are you believing in this matter. The sad fact is Ed and Linda Jackson trusted this man. They gave him a home. They gave him a vehicle. They gave him a phone. And he spent months with them. And then they sent him packing. His gripe is that, oh, Ed changed. No, Ed and Linda saw the real defendant. Young Jordan Schuyler trusted the defendant. And worst of all is Nikki trusted the defendant. She trusted him to give her a ride home, to get her safely back to her family. You cannot make the same mistake. This man is not deserving of your trust. Clearly, there's one person through these many days whose voice you have not heard. You haven't heard from Nicole Vanderheiden. George Burch sought to silence Nicole Vanderheiden, but she does speak to you. In her struggles, she tells you the truth. In her fight for life, she can be heard. With her blood on the grass, with her blood on the curb, on the street, with her hair strewn about, with her blood on these cords. As the doctor indicated, that she either struggled against to make a thicker, wider mark, or he pulled and he moved it in his attempt to silence her. These cords, with her presence, speak to you. And what else is on the cord? The defendant's DNA. On the murder weapon, when he wasn't bashing her head in. That's Exhibit 23. Speaks to you. And again, as I've indicated, all of those spots that were swabbed on her person, they tell a story to you as to what the truth is in this matter. And keep in mind that Dietrich is excluded from those locations. Beyond her person, we have Nicole's clothing. Today, you saw her filthy pants. You saw her bloody underwear, blood on both objects, and you heard about the bloody top, the tank, and the bloody overshirt. Nikki's clothes prove beyond all doubt that the defendant's account is total fiction, because they show you her clothes were on her when she was killed. All of that blood was from the stomping and the injuries that were on her when she was killed. They're not off, as the defendant would have you believe, because they're having sex in the car, and then she's killed. The clothing tells a different story. The blood stains destroy the defendant's story. She wasn't killed after having sex and after her clothes were already off. And again, the DNA of the defendant in so many locations. From the vaginal swabs, the cervical swabs, the left forearm, the right forearm, the left wrist, the right wrist, the left ankle, the right ankle, the left neck, left posterior neck, the right arm, the left arm, mons pubis, left palm, chest, right hand fingernail clippings, and again the cord, her right foot sock, her left foot sock, in the area of her shirt. He manhandled her and he left his mark. And she gives you that through her voice, through her person, through her clothing. Nikki was viciously and brutally murdered. No one's going to dispute that. 241 injuries, significant facial injuries, a fractured jaw, and the injuries of the genitalia, what we referred to. And again, strangled and blunt force trauma to the head. It was such a horrific death, it's hard to fit all the injuries on the diagram. Nikki did not give up easily. She showed her spirit through the end. Nikki did not go gently into the night. Through her will to live, she left you signs. And that turned into evidence to bring her justice. Don't ignore her efforts to tell you the truth about her murder. She fought to live, but her fight also gives you answers. Don't let her struggles have been in vain. Allow Nicole to guide you on the path to find the truth, which will lead you to the clear conclusion that George Burch is guilty of this murder beyond all reasonable doubt. We ask you to return a verdict of guilty for first-degree intentional homicide. Thank you.